All right, good morning, everyone. All right, let's get started. Good morning, Edwin. All right. Okay, let me just go over my list of stocks that were moving. First, let's talk about MLEC, MLEC. This is not a stock that I particularly pointed out, but one of you actually identified it, one of the members of the coaching room. So congratulations on that. It was a good find. Now this stock didn't have a very smooth movement. You can see that there are lots of halts. The way we know that is if we zoom in, we can see there are a lot of gaps in the chart, like here, between these two, these two, and down and up there. So there. So lots of halts in the stock, but basically it moved from about $5 up to 19.20 plus. So again, this wasn't one of the ones that I particularly identified myself, but I remember one of you in the room mentioned it. So this is, let me just kind of see if I can zoom into the start of the day there. It's hard to see. It's way over here. Yeah, okay. This is the start of the day right there. So for the most part, this stock was doing absolutely nothing. So that's why it never came up on the radar for me. But after since I leave the room for the middle of the day at 11:30 Eastern, this stock actually started moving at about 12:40 Eastern. So this is way after I'd already left. So one of you caught this during that period of time. Then when I came back later, I saw that this had been a good mover. So good job on spotting that. I don't think too many people were in this, but nevertheless, it was a pretty good move. All right, next up, we got G-Sun. Now, G-Sun was identified early, and at the earlier part of the day, it didn't really do exactly what we would have wanted. So let's just kind of look over that. So here is the beginning of that day, right here where my cursor is. So at first you have the gap up, turns around, goes down. G-Sun was identified pre-market. This was based on the activity that we saw pre-market. Then it basically just goes sideways, doesn't do too much. And then as we get towards the latter part of the day, we finally have this big jump here. Again, that was about 15 minutes after I ended my morning broadcast. But of course, this was already on our list, and we know that if a stock is active pre-market and it's on our list, it's a good idea to keep an eye on that stock because you never know. Maybe later in the day it picks up. Sometimes they do everything at the beginning of the day, that's the norm. But other times they may wait. But as long as they're really active, as long as there's a lot of volume, there's a good chance that stock may move. So in this case it did, and I know a number of you did very well with this. When I came back, a lot of you had already been holding a position in this for a while as it mostly went up. So here, it did kind of slow down here, but after this second breakout, roughly around here or there, it didn't stop, it just kept going. So some of you held through the whole thing, which is fine, and others of you got in a little later, but either way, really good move. Okay, next up is, I'm missing some data on that. Let me see, I think this one, okay, this is a little different. Okay, so as you can see, this stock mostly came down, and at first it was going up, and then it didn't, right? So at first it looked like it was trying to recover some of the lost ground, wasn't likely to recover all of it. That's if a stock gaps down very strongly. I mean, very strongly. I'm not talking about like a gap down of anything. If it's a gap down of more than 10%, then it's pretty much guaranteed the stock is not going to recover that full range. So let's say you have a stock that gaps down 20%. Chances are you're not going to see it reverse and go all the way back up to fill that 20% it just lost. Chances are it's going to maybe recover some of that, but definitely not all of it, right? So in this case, it dropped down far enough where a full recovery was pretty much out of the question. But at the beginning, it looked okay, but then failed to move, stayed in a range for a long time, and then finally, again, about 15 minutes after I ended the morning broadcast, or at least my morning portion of it, we had a breakout here, and then it just kept going. Had a brief pause here where it almost turned around, but it looks like that was very short-lived. Then went up, and then after that point, for the rest of the day, it just sold off. So this was actually a good opportunity in the middle of the day. Just took a while for it to build up. But again, this is another one of the stocks that we identified, so therefore, good opportunity was there. ATAI wasn't identified pre-market, I don't think, but it was something that we pointed out after that point. All right, moving on. We have MEGL. All right, MEGL has been on our list quite a few times recently. All right. So if you look at this stock, we have the open. Zoom in here. Good move up. Okay. Then it sharply retraces. Rebounds sharply here. Doesn't really do much for a while. Then finally breaks out. This was around 11:50 Eastern. So you had a really quick move up, but then that was it. Right. So there was definitely some exploitable movement in this. The actual movements were pretty consistent in each direction. So that's more ideal. Like you want something that swings sharply in one direction or another. So there were opportunities here as well. All right. Next up, AEHR. All right, so AEHR, this stock actually moved sharply upwards at it's like January 6th. Of course, January 6th. Sorry, looks like it moved up sharply here at the open, which we saw. This one was actually the best run we saw at the beginning of the day. As far as I recall, this was the best performer. So very consistent move up, and then finally loses momentum. Get to here, doesn't appear that it's going anywhere at first, and then finally it sells off, and then goes back to neutral trading. So yeah, definitely an exploitable move here. This move, I would say, you could do something with it, but I wouldn't do much. On the short side, this turnaround here where it goes down, this is a very good short selling opportunity there. Notice that we go outside of the channel, we turn around, drop back in, and then we start to sell off. So that one had some good opportunity on both sides. All right, next up is ATXG. Let's take a look at that. I'm sorry, actually, ATXG is the right one. Pre-market, this looked like it would be a potential performer on the 6th, but after the market opened, it didn't really do much at all. So here, right there, is where the market opened. You had a quick move up, and then it sold down. Then later on, it had a nice little recovery. Just around the time that I closed the morning broadcast, for my commentary, it had a quick move up. Then that was it. I wouldn't say there was much there. There wasn't. So this one pretty much was a dud, but it did reach an overnight high on the 6th before the market open of 269. So it was up there quite a bit. It just wouldn't keep going. Good morning, John. All right, next up, let's see. All right, I'm going to skip to Costco. Now, usually I don't put out stocks like Costco. The reason why is because usually these stocks don't move far enough to justify the time and effort we're putting into it. In other words, if you're trading, you want to spend your time on things that actually can generate some good results. You don't want to be in something that's barely moving, is what I'm saying. You want something that really has some momentum. This stock, does not normally have any momentum, and it's expensive as well. But on that day, it was moving. Okay. Sorry, I was being asked a question there. So we did catch this at the early part of the day, not pre-market, but after the open. I pointed this one out, and it did have a pretty good run. And after that, it went flat. So I don't know if anyone. I have to look at the results, which I'll look at in the coaching room later. But I'm not sure how many people were in this, but if you were, it was pretty good. All right, next up, I didn't personally point out mRNA, but I noticed that some of you actually did. So here's Moderna, starts the day off higher, sells off at first, really sharp decline, then turns around and shoots right back up. Very nice move. That was definitely a very exploitable move. So for those of you who caught this, congratulations. Very good catch. And then after that, sold off and basically went nowhere. Okay. Now, this one was actually a very surprise mover as well. T-Mobile. Not a stock that usually shows up on our radar, but here it is. So I didn't catch it at the open. I actually pointed this one out right here where it was starting to turn around and resume. So after that, it just had a slow move up and then just flattened out after that. Okay, so this was definitely exploitable. Again, not the type of move we're looking for. It wasn't that big of a percentage move, but nevertheless, it was exploitable for those who did. Now, we had a bunch of other stocks pre-market that looked interesting, but once the bell rang, they didn't do much. So I will mention two stocks that really did poorly after the bell opened as far as they went down, which of course you can take advantage of if you go short. So here's one, SPRB, Gap Tire, and it just sold off. So I know some of you apparently were short selling this stock, so it looks like it worked out okay. We also have MGAM, which also Gap Tire at first and then sold off very sharply. So both of these are pretty good examples of stocks that Gap Tire and then failed to rally after the open. We are comfortable taking advantage of longs and shorts. Generally speaking, as those of you who've been in the room now know, I look for long opportunities primarily because they typically have bigger ranges of movement percentage-wise. So therefore, a lot of these stocks we look at occasionally will catch, not that not that infrequently, but usually a few times a month we'll catch a stock they'll move well over 100% a day. So we're always looking for those. All right, so that aside, let's take a look at what opportunities are here today. So, in the pre-market, here's what we got so far. Let's take a look at them one by one. All right, so we got SWVL. Now, this stock currently trading 14 million shares, up 13.37%. Not up a lot, by our standards at least, but it did go to a high of 48 cents. Now, this is too cheap for us to trade in the room. We don't want to trade anything under $1. However, since it is fairly active right now, and it looks like it has been active for some time, I will put this on the longer term watch list just to see what happens over time. Now, if it finally gets above $1, so be it. We'll take a look at it. But if it spends a long time under $1, let's say a month, and we don't see any advancement in the movement, then that's usually where we kick them off the list. But sometimes they come back with a vengeance. COSM, for example, was one that I put on the list and sat there for a long time. And then we took it off, and then basically the next day, I think the stocks start to move dramatically. Now, of course, we still saw that it was moving, but it just wasn't on our list, so we didn't catch it quite as quickly. So I'll leave this on the longer term list. I won't look at that as something to watch at the open, but we'll see. Okay. Let's skip this one. Let's see what this looks like. CVAC. I don't know what the volume looks like. Let's take a look. Okay, the volume's at 776,000 shares, up 26%. That's enough that we should probably look at it. I'm not sure that this will be very active after the bell, but I'll add it to the list for now. Okay, so that's one. Let's see what else we got. All right, next up is CNTX. Now, this is a stock that, as you can see, Friday, end of the day, under $1. Today is trading 7.2 million shares. And it's trading over $1, up 52.57%. Looks interesting. Contact Therapeutics and Lonza enter a manufacturing agreement. So that's the news. We'll have this on our list for this morning. This could potentially go even higher, but we'll see. I do have some suspicion that this will be a pump and dump. You know, they'll pump at pre-market and dump it at the open, but we'll see. I have a suspicion about that, but we'll see what happens. All right, next up. All right, next up looks like VYGR. This one's currently up 28%, only 500,000 shares. The news was they received upfront consideration of $175 million, including a $39 million equity investment, up to $1.5 billion in potential development milestones, etc., etc. All right, so the volume is a little lower than what I would like to see pre-market, so I'm going to make sure this is on our bigger list for now. VYGR. Okay, so that's now on our bigger list, and also let me make sure I add CVAC. Or if I didn't already. Actually, I did already, right? CVA. No, I didn't. CVAC. There you go. And let's see, CNTX. Okay, so those are there. Okay, just wanted to make sure I added those. And then VYGR. We already just added. Okay, so that's not something we're going to watch pre-market, but I'll keep it on the list either way. All right. Not a lot here. Okay, OCGN. That's right here on our list already. This one's currently up 22.31% on 6.2 million shares. So pretty active. Let's see. COVID vaccine meets main goals in U.S. trial. Okay. Take a look at that. Looks like we got a lot of acquisitions. This couple acquisitions this morning on two stocks, PAYA and ALBO. So those are not going to be exploitable. All right, AMYT. Let's talk about AMYT. So, anyone want to look up what happened with AMYT? So that's the third stock this morning that I see that's done the same thing. So here's the news. To acquire Amert Farm, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. So this stock is going to be acquired. What that means is, someone's buying it out. The current buyout price is $14.50 per share. The stock is currently at $14.52. It actually went as high as $14.29. So let me see if there's any more detail about this. Shares are trading higher. It will acquire the company for $14.50 per ADS plus contingent value rights of up to additional $2.50 per ADS. I'm not totally sure. Well, per share, I guess. What's that? I'm not sure what that means. I have to look that one up. But the point is this. It's currently trading above the $14.50 price. So I'll have to look up the exact details of how this deal works. But as a rule of thumb, for day trading, or if you're trading stock, for options, there may be some things you can do with this. But if you're dealing with stocks, nothing you can do with this stock, because once the buyout price is already known, where is the stock going to go? It just goes up to that price or thereabouts, and then it stops. Same thing happened with the stock PAYA. This is this morning. Also ALBO. So all these stocks are basically dead to us. There's nothing really we can do with them. So they're just going to move right at the prices that we're seeing now or thereabouts. They're not going to move significantly up or down. That's it. So those are dead to us right now. All right, moving on. Okay, looks like Futu is up pre-market. I'm not going to put that on our watch list for this morning. Futu is already on our list anyway. It's been on there for a long time. We'll just see at the opening bell if it starts to move up the ranks a bit. Okay, moving on. Okay, this one looks interesting. APGN. Let's look at this. Right, APGN currently trading up 83% roughly on 7 million shares. So clearly this meets all of our criteria for activity. EF Hutton began covering the stock on the 5th, giving it an $8 price target. I don't think that's the reason why it's moving right now. Maybe I'm wrong. But whatever the case may be, this thing exploded in activity post-market on Friday. So it was up and just went nowhere, very little volume on Friday, and then as soon as the market closed, it suddenly has a big move up. So this looks like a stock that's being pushed for whatever reason. Pushed meaning that some people are trying to get the stock to move up for whatever reason. So we'll add that to our radar. APGN is on our radar. All right, got that one. All right, moving on. Excuse me. Looks like Bed Bath & Beyond was up sharply pre-market. Let's take a look at this. This is, of course, a stock we all know and maybe love. Hold on for a second. I forgot to put this on my list. Here's BBBY. All right. Bed Bath & Beyond. Currently up about 17%. But earlier this morning it was up to nearly $2.30 a share. So it was up a lot more. Analysts with 85% accuracy rate slashes PT on Bed Bath and Beyond. Here are five. Okay, that's, I hate headlines like that. Bed Bath and Beyond stock rallies despite looming specter of potential bankruptcy. Why Syncar Pharma shares are trading higher by 140%. Okay, so there's a few headlines here, but let's just make sure we're clear. Bed Bath & Beyond is once again on the verge of bankruptcy. I know that a number of you here possibly are investors into Bed Bath & Beyond. I say that with quote marks because obviously it's not a investment per se. I mean, I don't think most people who are in it holding it are thinking that this is a long-term value, but maybe some are. But the company, excuse me, the company has gone up and down, back and forth. It's had multiple chances to recover as far as its business, and consistently it's failed to be able to capitalize on that. It's a failing business it's a clearly failing business. All the numbers are crystal clear. They're losing their edge, or they've lost their edge. And history tends to be pretty consistent when it comes to these things. Once a stock falls out of favor with the populace, it's just a matter of time. You guys remember Sears, J.C. Penney. These are all companies that had their day, and they definitely had their day. But as they start to lose favor, the writing was on the wall, and we all know what happened. Okay, so in short, chances are, probability is that Bed Bath & Beyond is dead, right? So trading it is one thing. Just don't park your money in it thinking that this is going to work. Now, some people are betting on a short squeeze. That's what this is all about. The stock is a heavily shorted stock. That is true. But remember that if the company goes bankrupt and they don't emerge out of bankruptcy, then essentially the shares are worthless. If they never emerge out of bankruptcy, if they basically get liquidated, then that's the end. Now, in this case, I think I'm thinking about would some other company take over? Maybe. But I think it would be more likely that the company would just merge or absorb them into their company. Their assets, maybe they have some good brand identity. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a Bed Bath & Beyond shopper, so maybe that will happen. But even if it does, most likely, these shares are going to have, I think they're going to have some value in the end. The Bed Bath & Beyond has inventory, but in the current environment where a lot of companies have excess inventory, I don't know how good that's going to be. So in short, once that happens, pretty much the value is locked in stone. This is a company I would have a hard time seeing anyone paying a lot more for it than where it's at now. So we'll see. So I won't put it on the radar for I will put it on the radar for this morning. 11 million shares. I think this is actually worth looking at, but don't be surprised if this doesn't do anything. But if it does, it could be impressive. So I'll put it on the list. I don't have high hopes for this stock, but I'll put it on the list anyway. Okay, so Bed Bath & Beyond is on the radar for today. All right. Other than that, I think that, wait. I was just about to say that's it. SPRB is up again. Remember, this was the one that sold off sharply on Friday after looking like it wanted to play ball. So there it is, SPRB. Currently up 19% on 3.9 million shares. We'll add this to our radar today. Hopefully, it wasn't so bad. If you bet long, obviously it didn't work out too well. If you bet short on SPRB, it worked out very well for you. So as long as you're on the right side of its move, you should do well. Okay? I think this will be a mover as well. So let's add that to our list again. All right, folks, I'm going to jump over to the coaching room. So for those of you who are in the coaching program, for our funding program, I'll see you there in just a second. For those of you who are not, perhaps you just saw this video because you're looking at live streams on YouTube, or maybe you found us by some other means, be sure to check out fundertrading.com for more information about us. And I'll see you guys in the coaching room in just a second.